So next question will segue into the 905 D League. Obviously, the very new league for Toronto itself. Although I know it's in the West End, Mississauga, at the Hershey Centre. What was the reception like for I guess it's a transition for Raptors fans to sort of meet these players, see these players, understand that yes, the city has a D League now. Like, what was the reception like? The sentiment, like when you spoke to fans. With the city having this type of league here?
It was great. And for year one to have the fan base that we did, obviously there was nights where we would like to see more fans in the seats, but the way the schedule went, we were up against our own team in the Toronto Raptors a lot. There was a couple games where you look at us playing at the exact same night, within a half an hour of the Raptors tipping off, when you have LeBron James coming to town.
Yes.
you're happy if you can get 400 people in the crowd, and we still, I think that night, we had 700 or 800. So, and it was Drake night that night too. So you've got LeBron and you've got Drake night, and you could still get 700, 800 fans into the Hershey to cheer on the 905 when they're playing the exact same time. That's great. So there's a few nights like that throughout the season, which was tough, but all in all, the fans and the city of Mississauga and the GTA as a whole and Raptors fans as a whole were so inviting, welcoming, and embracing these guys, especially too when you look at the fact that at one point there was 5 Raptors roster players that could be at the D League games at any point. You could only have up to 3 at one time, but there was 5 that they could choose from. And at one point through the season, we saw them all within a couple of weeks of each other. And then, unfortunately, Anthony Bennett got waived, so we were just down to the 4 of them in DeLon, Norm, Lucas, and Bruno. And you look at the way Bruno has been going and his struggles with the D League last year, being in Fort Wayne and the ups and downs he had to go through. And then all of a sudden you put the 905 right down the road, 30 minutes, and it makes it so much easier. And I think that's where we got to see Bruno really flourish throughout the season, and the fans embraced him. There was a group of fans that had signs that we've now seen go at the ACC and at the Hershey Center with the Bruno and the Brew yes. So Bruno's got a huge fan base, and that was great because they embraced the 905 and even embraced the 905 roster that wasn't NBA affiliates for the Toronto Raptors. They embraced the entire team, the entire coaching staff, and it was so amazing to see. And then you look at what this D League team has done, and the point of the D League for the NBA is to develop players. And you can look at the 905, and in one season, they did the definition of what the D League is with Norman Powell and DeLon, right? And you saw glimpses of Lucas Nogueira early on when JV broke his hand. And then Bruno, you saw in the D League having such a great season, especially end of the season. But what Norm and DeLon have been able to do in such a short amount of time, especially Norman, with this D League team, is the epitome of what Masai Ujiri and MLSE and Dan Tolzman, who's the GM for the 905, wanted for this team. And it's amazing to see that they were able to develop these players, and now Norm is playing in the NBA playoffs.
You have that sense with some fans that I've spoke to that, the Raptors normally just make it to the first round. And, some say, oh, I'd be okay with that. But, we have this desire for them to go further. Do you think they have what it takes to go further with the roster that they have this season?
I think yes. And I say that with conditions, because obviously you want to make sure that injuries play a part at any moment. Any one of these guys can go down, knock on wood. But injuries is going to be key, and especially too with DeMarre Carroll coming back with just a few games left in the regular season. He adds something coming off the bench right now. But I think that this roster and this makeup is what they need to get out of the first round, and I think they've drawn an opponent in the Pacers that allows them to get that opportunity to get out of the first round. And the main thing that you look at it is they haven't won game 1 of an NBA series in the first round in their history and in the franchise. So I think if they can get a win today, that's going to be key, because it's going to give them a lot more confidence going into game 2. It's tough even at home going into game 2 and then game 3 on the road if you're down 0-1, 0-2, depending on how things work out. So if they can get a win today and this afternoon and go into game 2 with a 1-0 advantage, and then possibly splitting, going 1-1 or 2-0 heading into Indiana, they're going to have a lot more confidence. And I think the way you look at what Kyle and DeMar have been able to do in the offseason preparing for this year, Patrick Patterson, Terrence Ross, essentially the entire roster, and then you add in the veteran Argentinian and Mr. Winning has won at every level he's played at, and then Luis Scola, it adds something. And I think that was one of the pieces they were missing the previous 2 years, was a veteran mindset that could actually have an impact and really get things done. Because it's one thing to have a veteran mindset who's in the locker room just talking and cheering on, but when you have him that can actually have an impact the way that Luis Scola does, I think it adds to it. So I think with the roster that they've got and what Kyle and DeMar, their mindset is, knowing what happened last year, I think they've got what it takes. And I definitely think they're getting out of the first round, and I think that they could sweep the Pacers. I don't think they're going to. I do not think they're going to, but they have the potential to be able to do that. But I definitely think that this is going to go 5, and the Pacers might be able to squeeze 1 win out, possibly 2 if it goes 6, but I definitely don't see it going past 5. But I think they've got a sour taste in their mouth from last season with the Washington Wizards. And I think that they're going for vengeance, and unfortunately the Pacers are the ones who are going to have to deal with it.
Oh, well, that's okay. We'll take the win if we can today. You mentioned earlier about the Raptors fan base, and obviously with adding on social media, Twitter, Facebook, and for yourself as somebody who is the face of Raptors 905. How important is social media in terms of gaining new fans, especially in the NBA or at in basketball as a sport?
It's an integral part, and the way that the internet has gone, because social media has exploded and blown up in our faces, it's very important to be able to engage with your fan base on social media, because you're going to get fans that are already diehard fans, but then you're also going to get those ones who are friends of diehard fans that decide, all right, you know what, I'm going to follow because my friend does, and just see what's going on. And then the amount of contests that the Raptors are always running, whether it's their Twitter or on their website, and then you look at what they're doing with right now, I believe they're running a contest to show your best Raptors fan pride type of incentive, and you get tickets to an away game in Indiana.
That's awesome.
So that's pretty sweet. I wouldn't mind entering it.
I was saying, after this interview.
So social media is so important, not just for the basketball teams, for the leagues, but just sports in general, whether you're on a team within the league, media, broadcast, whatever it may be. Social media is so important because it gives you another avenue to engage with fans and just get them involved and make them feel like they're part of the team as well, if you will.
Last question, for anybody who's in any job, you obviously you do your job and it's great, and sometimes you bring that intensity to your work, but what do you do in your downtime? I know that you obviously had a thing for interior design, but outside of taking off the headphones and you're not the broadcaster anymore, what do you do for fun, or what do you do for, just to sort of step back?
Just enjoy having that time to step back and enjoy just the downtime and enjoy hanging out with friends and family and doing different things like that, and trying to travel when and where I can, and going and seeing different parts of Canada, the United States, the world at some point. So that's probably the one thing I would want to do and try to do, is just enjoy the downtime and take advantage of it. Because work is stressful and hard enough and busy enough, and it's going to keep ramping up the further I go within my career. So I know that the downtime is going to get shorter and shorter and shorter. So I may as well take advantage of it when I can. And the one thing that I've noticed when I speak to people who've been doing sports broadcasting for many years is they wish that they had more downtime and to take advantage of it. A lot of them have kids, so that's their focus. They're worrying about their kids and enjoying time with them and their family, which is fine. But some of them have said, I wish when I was younger I took more time for myself to be able to do things for myself. So I think just enjoying the downtime is probably the one thing I do, and that's just clearing my head. I'm sad to say I have one of those adult coloring books.
They're quite popular.
They are super popular, and I got it at Christmas, and I've finally now finished my first one. But it's actually super relaxing. And now that the weather's getting warmer, it's getting nicer out, grab a nice tea or a cocktail, an adult beverage, whatever it may be, sit on the deck, bring my coloring book, and just relax and enjoy it, and then just do the old hang out with friends and that type of thing.
Well, this was a great conversation, and I'm sure She's4Sports fans will love to hear what you have to say. Thanks so much, and I know that we'll probably still be in touch and following you and hearing all the great things that you're doing with Raptors 905 and your other broadcasting activities.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.